kids, welcome to another Glenn Yaps. We are in the recording studio where I spend a lot of my time. Had a few people ask what I've been doing for the COVID shutdown, and just like what I did the last shutdown, I spent time recording drum tracks for people. That we do correspondence through social media or emails, via my forums, or my YouTube channel, and they ask if I can do drums for them, and I have a PayPal account set up for that. And what I do is, if people want me to do a drum track, I basically get a recorded guide track from them, whether it be a guitar and vocals, along with a click track they use. If it's a basic style song, all I need is the tempo of the song, and I can insert the same tempo into my recording software, and I can record the drums at the speed to match the song sample they've sent me. Now, in a lot of cases, I don't need a click track. If it's a basic song that's basically 4/4 time and straight rock and roll, straight country, but I do get a lot of requests to do kind of the prog rock or the heavier rock. I'm just going to straighten my camera out a little bit. And so I kind of require a click track for that. I'm going to move the camera again. Just because if there's odd time signature, or if it's really complicated, sometimes it's harder to program the click to it. So I at least ask them to give me a click track by itself, and then give me their say it's a guitar vocal track playing to the click, and that way I can at least have a solid click without any interruptions or distractions, and then I have one of them playing to the click. So the fun part about this is I get to work on my own time. I don't have to wait for a band or someone else to, learn a song or learn the part or show up at practice, whatever. So this, for me, I'm more of the person in control. Now, it still takes time to do, because the drums are not the easiest to come up with complicated parts for these prog rock songs. For the most part, everything on the drum set is mic'd individually and goes into a mixer. And I'll show you I'll take my camera and kind of show around a little bit to see roughly what I'm doing. So what I normally do is I do these drum tracks for people. I give them as many tracks of my drums that I normally record to capture my kit, my big Yamaha kit, in the session. So basically you're at roughly 16 tracks of drums for if you want me to do a track on something. I always have the prog rock big drum set up in the studio, so you basically get that. It's up to you if you take each individual track, and if you don't want something, you can discard it, but you are getting 16 tracks of one track is bass drum, another track is the snare. The snare would have a track for a top and one for bottom. Then there's overheads and there's toms. So, and there's 2 on the bass drums, and if I'm using double bass, that makes 4 for just miking the kick drum inside and at the front. And then I also have a sub-kick microphone, or it's kind of a weird microphone, but and then you have room mics, so all those affect the sound. So I'm throwing all those in for the price. So So anyways, I've done projects for people I've never met. And sometimes I never hear the song when it's completed, which is totally fine. Some people just buy the track and they might tinker with it for a year or two before you even hear anything. My job is just to give them a drum track, and if they're happy with it, they pay for it. Now, locally, I do drum tracks for the odd people who approach me that want to take part in songwriting together. So obviously that's a joint thing, so there's no money exchange, it's just a sharing of ideas. So I used to do some projects with local guitarist Mike Cliff. Now we've only met once, and only briefly, and we collaborated on, I think, I'm going to say 5 projects off the top of my head over a few years. So in that case, he would come up with a guitar idea and he would send it to me. What do you think of this? Okay, well, that's cool. Maybe let's change this. Maybe add a little, some off time signatures there, or, just change the feel. But for the most part, it was a joint back and forth thing. So we do that via email. So he would give me the idea. So once he was settled on the idea, and I was happy with it. He would do a solid rhythm track to a click track at the speed that he felt would be the song. And there was, I think, one of the songs that he gave me was just something he totally came up with that I actually volunteered to do the drumming to, because I thought it was a cool instrumental. So in a couple of those projects, we actually dealt with musicians in other countries. So whereas I would do the drums and he would do the guitar, the bass player would be in England, and the keyboard player, lead singer, is in Sweden. So these files are being sent back and forth to everybody to try and get their parts all done, and they all go back to Mike, and who did the final mix. So I have nothing to do with the final mixes. So if you like or dislike something on them, that's in Mike's corner. So we mix totally different, but it's everybody just goes, here, Mike, you do this. So as for the ones from with the person from Sweden and from England, I think that one was basically, one was an original called Bad Regime, and then the other one was a cover tune, and the name escapes me. It was done a while ago, but it was a lot of fun. And so anyways, this one here that we're going to talk about today is called Dog's Breakfast, and it's a prog rock kind of song, no vocals. On this, it's just Mike and I. So Mike does all the guitars except bass. I do the bass guitar, and I do the keyboards, and I do the drums. Now the keyboards come in sporadic parts, and those were done at the ends. Anything to do with bass was done after I completed the drum tracks. So basically what we're going to listen to is how the file eventually came to me. Now, like I said, normally I get a click track by itself, and I get the person playing guitar or singing and playing guitar to a click track. And in that case, I sometimes like them to pan the click track to the left, their music and singing to the right. So in my ear, that click is always there. Now, for doing this video, I'm stepping backwards in time and doing this song, which was done a number of years ago. The problem is the main click track by itself is missing. I don't know where it is. It was probably after I got the drums done. I didn't need it anymore, because everything layered on top of that really is basically works with the drums, not the click. So the click was only important for the initial track that Mike most likely still has, and then the one he sent me I discarded once I had it down, or had my drum things down. So anyways, this one here has guitar, and click. So it would have been one of the two files that Mike sent me. So I'm going to show you roughly what it is. Now the sound may not be the greatest because none of these are mixed. And talking wise, I'm going to try and keep the camera close and try and not move the camera too much. So right now, my drum tracks, which are way up here, you can see them all muted. So the drum tracks were done. What I did is I just bounced them all to a single track, and as you can see, it's just called the drum mix, which they're not mixed, they're just all mixed together, meaning instead of multi-tracks, the drums are now onto a stereo track. The bass the same, the keyboards, and this is Mike's guitar. I believe that one's with click and then without click. So when Mike would send me the track when it's all done, I would get this, and this is what it sounds like. You can see the click's going to start here, and then everything else after this 4-bar or 4-count intro, he basically starts playing rhythm. Now the song is pretty complicated. It's got a few odd time signatures in it. I'm not going to rhyme them off the top of my head because your head might explode. So anyways, so this is what he sent me. So we'll let it play. So you can hear where the click actually changes there. That's where Mike is changing rhythm. And you hear the click going really fast from what it started with. Now the advantage of that is putting a lot of subdivisions in the click. It's easier to follow drum-wise when you're doing complicated stuff. The drum track I did on this is very staccato-ish, so there's lots of sharp stab on cymbals and hi-hats, and it's quite quick. So for me, the more subdivisions the better for a click track. So some people are comfortable with that, some aren't. I am, so that's what I basically kind of wanted for that. Now it goes like that for a little bit. It's going to add a little bit of volume here, and you can get more of a taste of it. At the end of this passage, the click will go back into a kind of a halftime thing. Now the click is back to what it was at the intro. Okay, so that's just about a little over half of the song. It goes through various stages, repeats at the very end the faster part that we just went through. So it kind of bounces between the two types of tempos. I think there's one other tempo in there. We're just going to focus on the first couple of sections there. So when I get a track from, I'm just going to put this up here. When I get a track from people, I normally spend a good couple of days on it, playing the song, getting used to the song, and coming up with usually 3 ideas for how it's going to go. In the case of the Mike Cliff projects, in most cases we settled on our original first ideas. But when someone's paying for a track for me to do, I usually give them 3 versions of the song, and they can choose between the 3. They might go, I like half of number 1, I don't like number 2 at all, but 3 has some good parts, can you merge them? Or they might find something they like in all 3, or they might just take the first one right off. Most people take the first one right off, but that's totally up to them. So I will alternate some stuff too if they're not happy with any of them. But I mean, at the end of the day, I can't go forever trying to make these people happy. You have a limit, because I mean, you're paying just for one song. If it keeps going and going and going, you have to pay for that. So anyway, it's a Mike Cliff song here. So what would have happened if I had the original click track still? That would be inserted, and then I would be practicing the drums to just the click, just to get used to playing the 2 certain tempo speeds, and coming up with some ideas, going in and out of having the guitar playing and shutting the guitar totally off. Because sometimes I find once I have the idea in my head of how, or like not the idea, but the guitar rhythm, I don't need to hear it all the time. If it's a repeating pattern, I can get it in my head, and I know the tempo playing along with the click, so I can hum it in my head just to practice the parts, which is kind of the case with this particular song. It sounds really busy and more complicated than it is, but it's definitely very tight with the click. Mike is an experienced guitar player, and he can play to a click extremely well. Now, there are fluctuations with playing to a click. It's not absolute, law that you have to be on the beat all the time, but you have to be within a perimeter of that beat. You can be a little bit behind, a little bit forward, and dead on. You can't stretch it to the next click, because it ends up getting really messy and hard to follow for someone else. So the golden rule is play in the center, and you have room to lay back and go forward a bit, just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the drums and the guitar. I'm going to lower the volume of the guitar a bit, and you can hear what I came up with the drums now, and then we'll show you what the bass is after. So we'll do that right now. So I'm going to mute Mike's guitar, and we're just going to, well, actually I'm going to just turn down Mike's guitar a bit. So the click would normally be at full volume, but like I say, I'm missing the click track for this song, so, and the whole thing is to hear the drum part that I came up with for the most part for this particular song. And it's very staccato. I wanted the drums to be staccato-ish and tight like the guitar, so here we go. This is the drums. Might be a bit too loud, so we'll see here. Okay, so that's basically the drum track I put on it. And now I just inserted these files in. They're not the original ones I mean, sorry, I shouldn't say that. They are not lined up like the original drum tracks were. So you might hear a little bit of like almost like a phasing issue, and that's just because I did this quickly to put all those tracks with the guitar and the drums in one spot really quick. So anyways, that's basically how I come up with the drum track for a particular song with a click. You can do that as many times as you want, obviously. And so it turned out pretty good. I sent it over to Mike, and he liked it. Now understand that I should say, this guitar track is the original bed track, right? The regular one just for the guide. Once the drums are down, and Mike liked them, Mike would redo the guitar and not play to a click. He would play to my drums instead. So what happens is he gets even tighter with the drums. Originally he's playing to a click, so it's a little bit it's more staccato-ish, a little less it's a little bit lifeless because you're not playing with the drummer, you're just playing to the steady click machine. So once you start to redo the track all over again, so basically you're doing the track twice, being the original writer of the song, you get tighter with the drums, and it just takes on a whole new vibe, we'll say. It's pretty cool how that works. If you've never written songs before, it's doing it in layers like this, you understand the recording process. Everything gets layered. In the old days, the band would play all at once, or the bass and drums and rhythm guitar would be recorded all at once in the studio, and then the vocals and lead guitar and keyboards would be put in after. Very rarely see that nowadays. There are still bands that do it that way, but this way is just everything's layered like making a sandwich. That's what it is. Sometimes the soul between, like that soul connection between musicians is lost this way. But studio is money, so they want it done quick. So now, in this case, Mike's rhythm guitar part is complete, or it should be done with, because it's the basic bed track. We don't need it anymore. So now I would have sent my drum track to Mike. Mike inserts it into his own software, redoes the rhythm guitar along with my drums, and then what I do is I tell him to send me just the rhythm guitar, the new rhythm guitar track, back to me, and then I will layer the keyboards and the bass guitar. So the bass guitar is now next. Now normally the bass I can play complicated or I can play it straight. So this particular track I decided to leave what they call a lot of holes in it, so it lets Mike's guitar rhythm on rhythm kind of stand out more. The drums are already busy. There's no need for the bass to be busy. So you're going to hear the bass drop out in sections and just do accents, and there's maybe a little bit of funk. I'm thinking this one here, there's this funk in a couple of spots, but I'm not going to be playing the whole track for you. Just give you an idea of what I came up with bass-wise. The bass, Mike pretty much just left me at my discretion. It wasn't like I had to be okayed by him for the bass. I just did the bass, and because he was going to layer it with a bunch of guitar lines. Mike likes to do a lot of guitar tracks over top, so don't be surprised when you hear Mike's versions on this. There's like 4 and 5 guitar tracks just layered over top. So here's the bass. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mute Mike's guitar. We'll get that out of the way. And we are going to just do the bass, and we're not going to have a click. We don't need the click anymore. We already know the drums are to the click for the most part, and trying to hold this up is a little bit tricky here, so while I get all the controls. So right now the bass and the drums are the only thing you're going to hear, and so you're going to hear lots of spaces, but when Mike puts his 5 guitar tracks on top, you'll understand why I left spaces. So drums and bass. Okay, I'm going to stop for a sec. Now, I still count the song in, so that helps now for Mike to come in on time with the drums. So I have a 4 count on this particular intro. So you vaguely hear it there a little bit, but... So the green line is the bass. Well, there's a hole. Okay, so you got a rough idea now of the bass line that I put with it. Now, the neat thing about doing your own bass lines to your own drumming is you already know the part. It's not like the bass player has to figure out what I'm doing. I already know the part, so I was kind of looking for basically just tightness with the kick drum and trying to stay out of the way of the guitar. Now, I did do a bit of a funk part in the later half of that. just for something different, and it kind of goes with what Mike was doing on guitar. So now, if I was to take the drums out, you can hear, and I'll add the guitar. Actually, I'll hold off on the guitar for now. I think I'll just do the bass for you, just so you have a rough idea. Now, so I left the space here for Mike's guitar. Okay, so that was the bass with the original rhythm track. Okay, now you'll hear it and you'll go, well, that's not quite tight, but you have to keep in mind that is the original bed track guitar track, meaning the first one that Mike sent me just so I could get the drums down. What you're not hearing is the guitar track that Mike sent after he got the drum track and redid it. So my bass is favoring that second track and not so much this one. The main part for the bass in this is to keep tight with the drums. Rhythm section, tight, everything else is layered on top. So Mike, when he did the second guitar sample for me, he was tighter to the drums than he was to the original style he played the sample bed track. Okay, hope that's everybody gets that. It's not too confusing. So in a lot of cases, you're doing these tracks twice to get them tight with the drums. Once the drums are to your liking, after and beyond that click track, once the drum tracks are done, all your instruments are layered over to the drum track, not to that click track. Your feel is now going to change slightly because now you're playing to a real drum beat with fills, and where the click track is very mechanical. So you're going to notice your feel changes. So this is common. So even though you're playing to, I'm letting you hear the bass play to that one guitar track. Remember, the bass line that I came up with goes to my drum track, but also to the second, better, and final rhythm track, and not the original ghost or guide track. Okay, so now we wanted to do some proggy keyboard stuff. Now Mike and I are into a lot of prog bands. I like the dirty Hammond organ kind of sound, so that's what I did for the keyboard lines. They're not really that hard, but we definitely wanted the prog sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the bass, drums, and the keyboards being this orange line, bass, drums. This is one of Mike's original guitar tracks. So I'm going to play just the beginning of that, and you'll get a taste of it. The keyboards only happen a couple of times in the song, but you'll get an idea of the power that they have. And hopefully this is not too loud, and I'll give you a taste of this. Now Mike's guitar would be here, no bass, no keyboards. Then I come in doing accents. And that's basically it. The keyboard line just gives it that deep purplish, kind of dirty Hammond organ sounds. It just accents or builds up the song at the intro to get it going, and then Mike takes over and does all this fun stuff. So that's basically how we do it. Normally I'm not putting bass and organ on songs that people request, or unless they request it on their original. But basically I just do drum tracks for people. But I love playing bass and keyboards, and we'll do it if need be. So it's just a fun process, and hopefully that lets people understand exactly what I'm doing here. I'll give you a quick rundown here. The drum set over here has microphones on everything. The project I'm working on for a friend of mine, his name's Henry. He's given me 3 songs. He's in this US side of the wonderful area, so we're doing a cross the border music collaboration. He's got some songs that he wanted real drums done to them, or better drums, and so that's what we're doing. So we're set up for that. So everything is mic'd, so every time there's a microphone, there's actually runs over, and everything drum wise, there is a channel that they go in. Every channel goes up here and is a track. So when I recorded Mike's song, I was using a small drum set. So believe it or not, that drum track of Mike's that I just showed you guys was done on a Thai Go kit, the smallest drum set you'll ever see. It's just a great drum set for recording, simple, fun, and actually gives really good sound. Like I say, those drums aren't even mixed yet, and they sound pretty punchy. So anyways, that's the scoop, and hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.